class. So before we start, let us chant the invocation mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Udapatakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadudam Parijana Saidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Ladita Shri Vishakam Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidhinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So I will share the screen.
Chapter 29, Prabhuji.
Chapter 29. Okay.
From starting.
Yes.
We had a sloka to memorize.
Okay. Very good. Which was the sloka?
It was 4.34.
4.34. Yes. So who wants to start first? 4.34.
Can I say first?
Yes, please.
Okay. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninastatvadarshinaha.
What is the translation? What is the meaning?
I didn't learn that.
But just
It's like basically it's about serving the Guru. So it's like asking the Guru for blessings. Like you have to inquire from the spiritual master.
Yeah.
And you have to render render service unto him.
Then what will happen?
He can impart knowledge.
Yeah, he can impart knowledge unto us.
They
have seen the ultimate truth.
Hari Bol. Okay, Hari Bol. So who is next?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Tadvidhi pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya ubadechyandi te jnanam jnaninastatvadarshinaha.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Next.
Tadvidhi pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshyandi de jnanam jnaninastatvadarshinaha.
Hari Bol. Who is next?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji, I
Mataji.
have two slogas last week and this week.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
4.22 and 4.34.
Yeah.
4.22. Yadrishchalapasantushto dvandvaticho vimatsaraha samasiddhau asiddhau cha kritvapi na nibadhyate.
Hari Bol.
Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevayam Upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninastatvadarshanaha.
Hari Bol. Yes. Who else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Tadvidhi pradipanena praniprashnena sevaya ubadeshyanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshinaha.
Yes, Hari Bol. Prabhuji, Shantarupa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare.
प्रतिपादेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदिशन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनः तत्त्वदर्शिनः।
Very bold. Manoj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
तद्विधि प्राणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेशान्ति ते ज्ञानानि तत्त्वदर्शिना.
Jnanina Tattvadarshina. Very bold. Okay. Who else? Anybody left? Deeptimati Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Tadvidhi pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha.
Okay. And Jeeveshri Mataji.
तद्विधि प्रणिपादेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदिक्षन्ते ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानस्तदि दर्शनः।
Very bold. And Shantarupa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Tatvriddhi pranipadena pariprasnena sevaya upadechanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina.
Very bold. Ammu and Kannan. Next week. Okay. If you are not led, be ready for next week. Next week. Okay. You prepare for next week. Both of you. Okay. Very good. Very bold. And Jeeveshwari Mataji, what about Mini Mataji? Not to be seen nowadays. Where is she? Very bold. Jeeveshwari Mataji, are you there? Where is Mini Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Arithilya.
Okay, yes.
More than 1 week, I don't know. She no contact with me.
Okay, okay, I'll call her. No problem. Okay.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. So we'll start. We'll continue. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 23. 29? 29 or 23?
29 Prabhuji.
29. Okay, okay. This is again, I took a 29. Yes. Okay. I'll be reading.
Shloka for next week.
I'll check and give you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I will be just reading. So please listen carefully. Okay, these are very hi-fi thing for all of us, but still, just for the sake of understanding what it is, we'll just keep reading. If you want to share something, ask something in between, you can interrupt and ask also. If there is something to be explained, if I know, I will try to explain. Okay. So chapter 29, expressions of love for Krishna. There are some bodily symptoms that express overwhelming ecstatic love, Vyabhichari Bhava. They are counted at 33 as follows: disappointment, lamentation, humility, guilt, fatigue, intoxication, pride, doubt, apprehension, intense emotion, madness, forgetfulness, disease, confusion, death, laziness, inertness, bashfulness, concealment, remembrance, argumentativeness, anxiety, thoughtfulness, endurance, happiness, eagerness, violence, haughtiness, envy, impudence, dizziness, sleepiness, and alertness. 33.
What is haughtiness?
I don't have to check. Anyone knows what is haughtiness? You can check the meaning in Google.
I think haughtiness means the arrogance. It's
Okay.
saying the appearance or quality of being arrogantly superior. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
basically arrogance and pride.
Okay. Good. Okay. So disappointment. When one is forced to act in a way that is forbidden or to refrain from acting in a way that is proper, he becomes regretful and thinks himself dishonored. At that time, there is a sense of disappointment. In this kind of disappointment, one becomes full of anxiety, shed tears, changes bodily color, feels humility, and breathes heavily. When Krishna, in punishing the Kaliya serpent, appeared to have drowned himself in the poisonous water of the Yamuna, Nanda Maharaja addressed Yashoda Devi thus, "My dear wife, Krishna has gone deep into the water, and so there is no longer any need to maintain our bodies, which are so full of sinful activities. Let us also enter into the poisonous water of the Yamuna and compensate for the sinful activities of our lives." This is an instance of severe shock, wherein the devotee becomes greatly disappointed. We have to understand that these are all the different ecstatic loving exchanges between Lord Krishna and his different devotees in different bhavas. This we may experience in material life also in some of this, but that is purely on a material term. But these ecstatic symptoms are transcendental, divyam, it is spiritual. This is not mundane, because here the both, one is the lover, other one is the beloved. Okay, Krishna and their devotees with different mellows. Some of these symptoms we may also get, in our material relationship, but that is temporary and that's not eternal. But these symptoms are not material; these symptoms are transcendental. So at least I cannot give any explanation for this, how it is happening, all these things, but simply we'll just read. So when Krishna left Vrindavana, Subala, his intimate friend, decided to leave also. While leaving, Subala was contemplating that without Krishna, there was no longer any pleasure to be found in Vrindavana. The analogy is given that as the bees go away from a flower that has no honey, Subala left Vrindavana when he found that there was no longer any relishable transcendental pleasure there. See, it is a transcendental pleasure. It's not a material pleasure that Subala was having in the presence of Krishna. So the relationship between Krishna and his devotees in different mellows are all transcendental. It is nothing to do with matter. So in Dana Keli Kaumudi, Srimati Radharani addresses one of her friends in this manner. My dear friend, if I cannot hear of the glorious activities of Krishna, it is better for me to become deaf. And because I am now unable to see him, it would be good for me to be a blind woman. This is another instance of disappointment due to separation from Krishna. Okay. So this is the extent of that love that the devotees have with Krishna. If they cannot hear the transcendental sound or the sound of Lord Krishna, they don't want their ears. It is better to be deaf. Similarly, to blind also. If they cannot see Krishna, what is the use of the eyes? Let me become blind. So this is the extent of transcendental love that they have with Krishna. There is a statement in the Hari Vamsa wherein Satyabhama, one of the queens of Krishna in Dwaraka, tells her husband, my dear Krishna, since I heard Narada glorifying Rukmani before you, I can understand that there is no need of any talking about myself. This is an instance of disappointment caused by envy. Rukmani and Satyabhama were co-wives, and because Krishna was husband of both, there naturally was some feminine envy between them. So when Satyabhama heard the glories of Rukmani, she was envious of her and thus became disappointed. So again, this envious nature is also transcendental. It is not that we find in the material world, but here this is a transcendent enviousness. It is there in the transcendental abode also. In the 10th canto, 51st chapter, verse 47 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is this statement, my dear Krishna, I cannot say that it is only other people who are implicated in material existence, because I too am much entangled with the bodily concept of life. I am always too anxious about my family, home, wife, wealth, land, and kingdom. And because I have been so maddened by this material atmosphere, I'm thinking now that my life has simply been spoiled. This statement is an instance of disappointment caused by lamentation. So here again, we have to understand that even in the material world, we have these bodily relationships. You know, we are concerned about our family members, about our near and dear, about our friends. You know, these are all there. It's quite natural. It is not unnatural to have that intimate relationship with our own people, be it family or relatives or friends. It doesn't mean that we are not Krishna consciousness, that we have to, when we are Krishna consciousness, we should not have this relationship. Even while we are maintaining our Krishna conscious activities, we will have this that intimate relationship with our own people. But at the same time, we have to see that we give Krishna consciousness to our family members, relatives, and near and dear. If we don't do that, then we are not doing our duty. Okay. So that is also we have to understand. So it's quite natural that, okay, that person is Krishna conscious. Yes, one can be, one may not have attachment only if they are in the renounced order of life. For them, everybody is equal. Okay, because they are totally renounced. But in Grihastha Ashrama, we will have that intimate relationship with our own family members, with our near and dear. You know, if somebody outside, we may not have that attachment, isn't it? But with our family members, with our devotees, with, you know, we will have that attachment because we are all in the Grihastha Ashrama. Those who are in the renounced order of life, they will, for example, Prabhupada, okay, they will see everyone equally. But again, they will give importance to those who are inclined for Krishna consciousness. It is not a partiality again. One should not mistake that a partiality. For example, Prabhupada may give importance to some devotees who are more inclined for devotional service, who are taking up devotional service, you know, intensely more than others. It is not a partiality. Just like when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name deshosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. I am equal to all. I am impartial to everyone. I give equal opportunities to, but to my devotees, I have a soft corner. So that way we have to understand it, because since we are in Grihastha, this attachment, bodily attachment will also be there. But at the same time, we have to see that, ensure that we have to give them Krishna consciousness. But that is ultimately will save them from this material existence. So according to Bharata Muni, this disappointment is inauspicious. But there are other learned scholars who have accepted such disappointment as being in the mode of neutrality and as being a preservative of ecstatic love. One second. When one is unsuccessful in achieving his desired goal of life, when one finds no fulfillment in his present occupation, when one finds himself in reverse conditions, and when one feels guilt, at such a time one is said to be in the state of lamentation. So all that is there in this transcendental world, it is also there in the material world. Okay, but the only difference is one is material, the other one is transcendental. That relationship, that ecstasy, that symptoms are transcendental. What we experience in this material world, it is temporary and it is material. So this difference is there definitely. In this condition of lamentation, one becomes questioning, thoughtful, tearful, regretful, and heavy breath. His bodily color changes and his mouth becomes dry. One aged devotee of Krishna addressed him in this way: "My dear Krishna, O killer of the demon Agha, my body is now invalid due to old age. I cannot speak very fluently, my voice is faltering, my mind is not strong, and I am often attacked by forgetfulness. But my dear Lord, you are just like a moonlight, and my only real regret is that for want of any taste for a pleasant shining, I did not advance myself in Krishna consciousness." This statement is an instance of lamentation due to one's being unable to achieve his desired goal. One devotee said, "This night I was dreaming of collecting various flowers from the garden, and I was thinking of making a garland to offer to Krishna. But I am so unfortunate that all of a sudden my dream was over and I could not achieve my desired goal. This statement is an instance of lamentation resulting from non-fulfillment of one's duties. So different devotees are expressing their unfortunate situation because they could not succeed in their endeavor to please Krishna, whether in real life or even in dream. That's why they are lamenting. But I could not do this seva to Krishna. When Nanda Maharaja saw his foster son Krishna embarrassed in the sacrificial arena of Kamsa, he said, "How unfortunate I am that I did not keep my son bolted within a room. Unfortunately, I have brought him to Mathura, and now I see that he is embarrassed by this giant elephant named Kuvalaya. It is as though the moon of Krishna were eclipsed by the shadow of the earth." This is an instance of lamentation caused by reversed conditions. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 9 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a statement by Brahma. "My dear Lord, just see my impudence. You are the unlimited, the original personality of Godhead, the super soul, and you rule over the most perfect illusory energies, and just see my impudence. I wanted to supersede you by my own personal power, and I was very puffed up with this tiny power of mine, just as a simple spark from a fire cannot do any harm to the fire. So my bewildering potency was completely unsuccessful in thwarting your superior illusory power. Therefore, I find myself to be most insignificant and think of myself as a most useless person." This statement by Brahma is an instance of lamentation caused by committing an offense. So we all know Lord Brahma wanted to test whether this little boy of Vrindavana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or not. So he stole all the cows and the cowed boys. But later when he came to know, he was regretting that the impudence that he was testing not an ordinary boy, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So he was repenting, and that is his lamentation. Humility, a sense of weakness caused by distress, fear of offensiveness, is called humility. In such a humble condition, one becomes talkative, small in heart, dirty in mind, full of anxiety and inactive. In the 10th canto, 51st chapter, verse 57 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the following statement by King Muchukunda. "My dear Lord, because of my bad deeds in the past, I am everlastingly aggrieved. I am always suffering from my desires, but still my senses are never satisfied with material enjoyments. Somehow or other, by your grace, I am now in a peaceful condition because I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, which are always free from all lamentation, fear, and death. O Supreme Protector, O Supreme Soul, O Supreme Controller, kindly give me your protection. I am so much embarrassed." This statement by Muchukunda is an instance of humility resulting from a severely miserable condition of material existence. We know the story of Muchukunda, and Krishna wanted to kill Kalayavana, so he took Kalayavana to a cave where Muchukunda was sleeping. So the benediction that he asked from the demigods, that if anybody disturb my sleep, okay, they will be burnt into ashes. So Krishna took this benediction to kill Kalayavana. He took Kalayavana to this cave, and Krishna hid in some place. When Kalayavana stamped on Muchukunda, he opened his eyes, and Kalayavana became ashes, into ashes. Okay. So this is that. And when Uttara was attacked by the Brahmastra Ashwathama, she became afraid, who was still within the womb. She immediately surrendered to Krishna and said, "My dear Lord, kindly save my child. I do not mind if I myself must be killed by the Brahmastra of Ashwathama." This is an instance of humility caused by fear. Because Uttara was telling that if I am killed, no problem. But you know, there is a baby in my womb. He should be saved because that is the only heir to the throne. If that baby is killed, there will be no heir to the throne. So in the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 10 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, O infallible one, I am born in the mode of passion, and therefore I have been falsely proud of being the creator of this material world. My false pride was just like dense darkness, and in this darkness I had become blind. In my blindness, I was considering myself a competitor to you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But my dear Lord, even though I am accepted as a creator of this universe, I am eternally your servant. Therefore, kindly always be compassionate toward me and excuse me in that way. This statement by Brahma is another instance of humility resulting from committing offense. So Brahma's prayers, Brahma is telling, you know, I was proud, you know, being a creator. So that's everybody, you know, when we do something really great, we'll be having that pride in us. Okay, I am this person, I am the owner of that, I am the proprietor of that, I am the controller of that. Similarly, being in passion, you know, Brahma also felt, okay, I am creator. Okay, so he forgot at that time that he is not the prime creator, he is a secondary creator. So when he understood that, he is also regretting and in humility, and he's praying to Supreme Lord Krishna this way. Sometimes there is humility due to shyness. For example, when Krishna stole all the garments from the gopis while they were bathing in the river, all of them begged Krishna not to commit this injustice upon them. The gopis addressed him thus, Dear Krishna, we know that you are the son of Nanda Maharaja and that you are the most beloved of all Vrindavana. And you are very much loved by us also. But why are you giving us this trouble? Kindly return our garments. Just see how we are trembling from the severe cold. This humility was due to their shyness from being naked before Krishna. Guilt. When a person blames himself for committing an inappropriate action, his feeling is called guilt. One day, Srimati Radharani was churning yogurt for Krishna. At that time, the jeweled bangles on her hands were circling around, and she was also chanting the holy name of Krishna. All of a sudden, she thought, I am chanting the holy name of Krishna, and my superiors, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law may hear me. By this thought, Radharani became over anxious. This is an instance of feeling guilty because of devotion to Krishna. One day, the beautiful-eyed Srimati Radharani entered into the forest to collect some flowers to prepare a garland for Krishna. While collecting the flowers, she became afraid that someone might see her, and she felt some fatigue and weakness. This is an instance of guilty feelings caused by labor for Krishna. There is a statement in Rasa Sudhakara that after passing the night with Krishna, Radharani became so weak that she was unable to get up from the bed. When Krishna took her hand to help her, Radharani felt guilty about having passed the night with him. Fatigue. One feels fatigue after walking a long distance, after dancing, and after sexual activity. In this kind of fatigue, there is dizziness, perspiration, inactivity of the limbs, yawning, and very heavy breathing. One day, Yashoda was chasing Krishna in the yard after he had offended her. After a while, Yashoda became very fatigued, and therefore she was perspiring, and her bunched hair became loosened. This is an instance of becoming fatigued because of working too much. So this is, I think this is the Damodara pastime that is being referred here. Sometimes all of the cowherd friends of Krishna, along with Balrama, danced together in some ceremony. At these times, the garlands on their necks would move, and the boys would begin to perspire. Their whole bodies became wet from their ecstatic dancing. This is an instance of fatigue caused by dancing. The Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 33rd chapter, verse 20, it is said that after enjoying love affairs with Krishna by dancing, embracing and kissing, the gopis would sometimes become very tired. And Krishna, out of his causeless mercy and compassion, would smear their faces with his lotus hands. This is an example of fatigue caused by laboring in the rasa dance. Intoxication. When one becomes arrogant with false prestige due to drinking intoxicants or being too lustful, the voice becomes faulty, the eyes become swollen, and there are symptoms of redness on the body. There is a statement in the Lalita Madhava that Lord Baladeva, intoxicated from drinking excessive quantities of honey, once began to address the ants. "O you kings of the ants, why are you hiding yourself in these holes?" At the same time, he also addressed the king of heaven, "O King Indra, you plaything of Sachi, why are you laughing? I am now prepared to smash the whole universe, and I know that Krishna will not be angry with me." Then he addressed Krishna, "My dear Krishna, tell me immediately why the whole world is trembling and why the moon has become elongated. And, oh, you members of the Edu dynasty, why are you laughing at me? Please give me back my liquors made of honey from the Kadamba flower." Srila Rupa Goswami prays that Lord Balarama will be pleased with all of us while he is thus talking just like an intoxicated person. So we all know that Lord Balarama is a person, who's not also known as Avadhuta. We cannot predict his character. Sometimes will be very friendly, sometimes very angry. So, and especially, he has the habit of taking that honey, that is Varuni. Okay. So when he takes that, he behaves, in our term, in an abnormal way, but it's a normal way as far as is concerned. So Baladeva or Balarama is the older brother of Krishna, is an expansion of Godhead himself, and therefore to be considered an incarnation of God, as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the difference between Krishna and Balarama, one is Sevya Bhagwan, the other one is Sevak Bhagwan. So Sevya Bhagwan is the person who receives seva, Sevak Bhagwan, the person who renders seva. So that's the only difference between them, and the complexion is different. So in this state of intoxication, Balarama felt tired and lay down for rest. Generally, those who are exalted personalities lie down when they feel intoxicated, whereas those who are mediocre laugh and sing during intoxication, and those who are lowly use vulgar language and sometimes cry. Such intoxication is manifested according to different ages and mentalities. Srila Rupa Goswami does not describe further in this direction because there is no necessity for such a discussion. There is another description of the symptoms of intoxication in the person of Sri Radharani after she saw Krishna. Sometimes she was walking hither and thither, sometimes she was laughing, sometimes she was covering her face, sometimes she was talking without any meaning, and sometimes she was praying to her associate gopis. Seeing these symptoms in Radharani, the gopis began to talk among themselves. Just see how Radharani has become intoxicated simply by seeing Krishna before her. This is an instance of ecstatic love in intoxication. So intoxication is not only by consuming liquor. We can have intoxication in many other ways. When we are very wealthy, we can be intoxicated with that wealth. When we are very beautiful, we can be intoxicated with that beauty. And when we are very knowledgeable, we can be intoxicated with that knowledge. So intoxication doesn't mean that just only the liquor. So intoxication can be by having different opulences also. Pride. Expressions of ecstatic love in pride may be the result of excessive wealth, exquisite beauty, a first-class residence, or the attainment of one's ideal goal. One is also considered proud when he does not care about the neglect of others. Bilamangala Thakur said, "My dear Krishna, you are leaving me, forcibly getting out of my clutches, but I shall be impressed by your strength only when you can go forcibly from the core of my heart. This is an instance of feeling pride in ecstatic love of Krishna. So as we all know, Vilamangala Thakur, he was blind, he was in Vrindavana, and this small little Krishna used to come and give him milk and other eatables. So later he came to know he is not an ordinary cowherd boy, is Krishna himself. So one day that little boy Krishna left his hand and ran away. Then he was telling, how can you live from my heart? You may live, but you are already arrested. You have been already arrested within my heart. It is not possible for you to leave my heart. Just show me how you can leave my heart. So this is the feeling of pride in ecstatic love for Krishna. So Vilamangala Thakur was thinking that you cannot run away from my heart. I have already arrested you in my heart. So that is the loving relationship that Vilamangala Thakur had with Lord Krishna. So once during the Rasa dance, when Radharani left the arena and Krishna went to seek her out, one of the dear friends of Radharani addressed Krishna thus: "My dear Krishna, you have been very much obliging in serving the form of our Sri Radharani, and now you have left all other gopis to search for her. Please allow me to inquire how you want her to treat you." This is an instance of feeling pride on account of exquisite beauty. Sometimes Radharani felt pride within herself and said, "Although the cowherd boys prepare nice flower garlands for Krishna, when I present my garland to him, he becomes struck with wonder and immediately accepts it and puts it on his heart." Similarly, in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 33 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, "My dear Madhusudana, persons who are pure devotees of your lordship actually feel your ecstatic friendship, and as such, they are never vanquished by enemies. They know they are always protected by you, and so they can matter of factly pass over the heads of their enemies without any care." Sorry, I think I'll miss it. Okay. In other words, one who has taken complete shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord is always proud of being able to conquer all enemies. One weaver at Mathura addressed Krishna in this way: "My dear King of Vrindavana, I have become so proud of your causeless mercy upon me that I do not even count upon the mercy of the Lord of Vaikuntha, which is sought after by many great sages in deep meditation." In other words, although the yogis and great sages sit in meditation upon Lord Vishnu, who is residing in Vaikuntha, a devotee of Krishna is so proud that he does not consider such meditation to be very valuable. This feeling of pride is due to one's having achieved the highest goal of life, Krishna. Doubt. After Lord Brahma had stolen all of the cows and cowherd boys from Krishna, he was trying to go away, but all of a sudden he became doubtful about his stealing affairs and began to watch on all sides with his 8 eyes. Lord Brahma has 4 heads, and therefore he has 8 eyes. This is an instance of ecstatic love in doubt caused by stealing. Similarly, just to please Krishna, Akrura stole the Shamantaka money, a stone that can produce unlimited quantities of gold, but later on he repented his stealing. This is another instance of ecstatic love for Krishna in doubt caused by stealing. When the king of heaven, Indra, was cursing torrents of rain, causing torrents of rain to fall on the land of Vraja, he was advised to surrender himself at the lotus feet of Krishna. At that time, Indra's face became very dark because of doubt. Apprehension. When a person becomes disturbed in his heart by seeing lightning in the sky, by seeing a ferocious animal, or by hearing a tumultuous sound, his state of mind is called apprehensive. In such a state of apprehension, one tries to take shelter of something that provides safety. There may be standing of the hairs on the body, trembling of the body, and sometimes in the committing of mistakes, and sometimes the body may become stunned. In the Padyavali, there is the following statement: my dear friend, Krishna's residence in the demonic circle at Mathura under the supremacy of the king of demons, Kamsa, is causing me much worry. This is one instance of apprehending some danger to Krishna in ecstatic love for him. When Vrishasura appeared in Vrindavana as a bull, all of the gopis became greatly affected with fear. Being perturbed in that way, they began to embrace the tamala trees. This is the instance of fear caused by a ferocious animal and of the search for shelter while remembering Krishna in ecstatic love. Upon hearing the jackals crying in the forest of Vrindavana, Mother Yashoda sometimes became very careful about keeping Krishna under her vigilance, fearing that Krishna might be attacked by them. This is an instance of ecstatic love for Krishna in fear caused by tumultuous sound. This kind of fear is a little different from being actually afraid. When one is afraid of something, you can still think of past and future. But when there is this kind of ecstatic apprehension, there is no scope for such thinking. Emotion is caused by something very dear, by something very detestable, by fire, by strong wind, by strong rainfall, by some natural disturbance, by the sight of a big elephant, or by the sight of an enemy. When there is emotion caused by seeing something very dear, one can speak very swiftly and use kind words. When there is emotion caused by seeing something detestable, one cries very loudly. When there is emotion caused by seeing fire, one tries to flee. There may also be trembling of the body, closing of the eyes, and tears in the eyes. When one becomes emotional on account of a strong wind, one tries to run very swiftly and rubs his eyes. When one is emotional because of rainfall, one takes an umbrella and there is tension in his body. When there is emotion due to a sudden disturbance, one's face becomes discolored. One becomes struck with wonder and there is trembling of the body. If there is emotion from seeing an elephant, one may jump and show various signs of fear, and sometimes one may keep looking behind him. When there is emotion due to the presence of an enemy, one looks for a fatal weapon and tries to escape. When Krishna returned from the forest of Vrindavana, Mother Yashoda was so emotional from seeing her son that milk began to flow from her breasts. This is an instance of emotion caused by seeing a dear object. In the 10th canto, 23rd chapter, verse 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami informs King Parikshit, my dear king, the wives of the Brahmanas were usually very much attached to the glorification of Krishna, and they were always anxious to get an opportunity to see him. Because of this, when they heard that Krishna was nearby, they became very anxious to see him and immediately left their homes. This is an instance of emotional activity caused by the presence of someone very dear. When Putana, a demoniac witch, was struck down and killed by Krishna, Mother Yashoda was struck with wonder and began to cry emotionally. Oh, what is this? What is this? When she saw that her baby Krishna was playing on the chest of the dead demonic woman, Mother Yashoda, at a loss what to do, began to walk this way and that. This is an instance of being emotional on account of seeing something ghastly. When Krishna uprooted the two Arjuna trees and Yashoda heard the sound of the trees crashing down, she became overcome with emotion and simply stared upward, being too bewildered to know what else to do. This is an instance of being emotional from hearing a tumultuous sound. When there was a forest fire in Vrindavana, all the coward men assembled together and desperately appealed to Krishna for protection. This is an instance of emotion caused by fire. The whirlwind demon known as Trinavrata once carried Krishna off from the ground and blew him around along with some very big trees. At that time, Mother Yashoda could not see her son, and she was so disturbed that she began to walk this way and that. This is an instance of emotion caused by severe wind. In the 10th canto, 25th chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of Indra's causing severe torrents of rain at Vrindavana. All the cows and cowherd boys became so afflicted by the wind and cold that they all gathered together to take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. This is an instance of emotion caused by severe rainfall. There were severe torrents of hail when Krishna was staying in the forest of Vrindavana, and the elderly persons bade him, Krishna, don't you move now. Even persons who are stronger and older than you cannot move, and you are just a little boy, so please stay still. This is an instance of emotion caused by heavy hailing. When Krishna was chastising Kaliya in the poisonous water of Yamuna, Mother Yashoda began to speak emotionally. Oh, see how the earth appears to be trembling. There appears to be an earth tremor, and in the sky tears are flying here and there. My dear son has entered into the poisonous water of the Yamuna. What shall I do now? This is an instance of emotion resulting from a natural disturbance. In the arena of Kamsa, when Krishna was attacked by big elephants, all of the ladies present began to address him in this way. My dear boy, please leave this place immediately. Please leave this place immediately. Don't you see the big elephants coming to attack you? Your innocence gazing upon them is causing us too much perturbation. Krishna then told Mother Yashoda, my dear mother, don't be perturbed by the appearance of the elephants and horses that are so forcefully coming and raising dust, causing blindness to these lotus-eyed women. Let even the Keshi demon come before me. My arms will still be adequate for victory. So please don't be perturbed. In the Lalita Madhava, a friend tells Mother Yashoda how wonderful it is that when this Shankachuda demon, vast and strong as a great hill, attacked your Cupid-like beautiful son, there was no one present in Vrindavana to help. And yet the demon was killed by your little son. It appears to be due to the result of severe penances and austerities in your past lives that your son was saved by this way. In the same Lalita Madhava, there is an account of Krishna's kidnapping Rukmani at a royal marriage ceremony. At that time, all of the princes present began to converse among themselves, saying, we have our elephants, horses, chariots, bows, arrows, and swords. So why should we be afraid of Krishna? Let us attack him. He is nothing but a lusty, coward boy. He cannot take away the princess in this way. Let us all attack him. This is an instance of emotion caused by the presence of enemies. Srila Rupa Goswami is trying to prove by the above examples that in relationship with Krishna, there is no question of impersonalism. All personal activities are there in relation with Krishna. So Rupa Goswami is ultimately telling us that Krishna is not void, Krishna is not something abstract light. No, Krishna is a person. We can have these sorts of relationship. Only with a person we can have, not with void or abstract light. So he is establishing the personal form of Krishna by these terms. Madness. Srila Billavangala Thakura prays in his book as follows. Let Srimati Radharani purify the whole world because she has surrendered herself completely unto Krishna. Out of her ecstatic love for him, she sometimes acted just like an adult person attempted to churn yogurt, although there was no yogurt in the pot. And seeing this, Krishna became so enchanted by Radharani that he began to milk a bull instead of a cow. These are some of the instances of insanity or madness in connection with the love affairs of Radha and Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that when Krishna entered the poisonous waters of Yamuna, Srimati Yashoda Devi went insane. Instead of searching for curative herbs, she began to speak to the trees as if they were snake chanters. With folded hands, she began to bow down to the trees, asking them what is the medicinal herb that can check Krishna's dying from the poisonous water. This is an instance of insanity caused by some great danger. How a devotee can be in a state of insanity because of ecstatic love is described in the 10th canto, 30th chapter, verse 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein the gopis were searching for Krishna in the forests of Vrindavana. Gopis were loudly singing the glories of Krishna and wandering from one forest to another in search of him. They knew that Krishna is not localized, but all pervading. He is in the sky, he is in the water, he is in the air, and he is the super soul in everyone's heart. Thus the gopis began to inquire from all kinds of trees and plants about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is an instance of ecstatic madness on the part of the devotees. Similarly, there are symptoms of diseases caused by ecstatic love. This condition is credited by learned scholars as being Mahabhava. This highly elevated condition is also called Divyonmada or transcendental madness. Forgetfulness. When Krishna was absent from Vrindavana and was staying in Mathura, Srimati Radharani sent news to him that his mother, the queen of Vraja, was feeling such separation from him that there was foam coming from her mouth like the foam on the shore of the ocean. Sometimes she was raising her arms like the waves of the ocean, and because of her intense feelings of separation, she was rolling on the ground and creating a tumultuous roaring sound. And sometimes she was remaining completely silent like a calm sea. These symptoms of separation from Krishna are called apasmara or forgetfulness. One completely forgets his position when he manifests these symptoms in ecstatic love. Another message was once sent to Krishna informing him that after he had killed Kamsa, one of Kamsa's demon friends had gone insane. This demon was foaming at the mouth, waving his arms and rolling on the ground. This demonic demonstration is in relationship with Krishna in a ghastly humor. This mellow or flavor is one of the indirect relationship with Krishna. The first 5 kinds of relationship are called direct and the other 7 are called indirect. Some way or other, the demon must have had some relationship with Krishna because these symptoms developed when he heard that Krishna had already killed Kamsa. Srila Rupa Goswami remarks that there is also transcendental excellence in this kind of symptoms. So as we all know, there are 5 primary mellows and 7 secondary mellows. Okay, so this symptom was from the 7 secondary mellows, that's ghastly relationship. Disease. When Krishna was absent from Vrindavana and was staying at Mathura, some of his friends informed him, "Dear Krishna, because of their separation from you, the inhabitants of Vraja are so afflicted that they appear to be diseased. Their bodies are feverish and they cannot move properly. They are simply lying down on the ground and breathing heavily." In the 10th canto, 12th chapter, verse 44 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaja Parikshit asked about Lord Ananta, and upon hearing this question, Sukadeva Goswami began to show symptoms of collapsing. Yet he checked himself and answered King Parikshit's question in a mild voice. This collapsing condition is described as a feverish state resulting from ecstatic pleasure. There is another statement in Srimad Bhagavatam telling of the damsels of Vraja meeting Krishna at the sacred place of Kurukshetra many years after their childhood pastimes. When they met in that sacred place, all the gopis became stunned by the occurrence of a solar eclipse. Their breathing, blinking of the eyes, and all similar activities stopped, and they stood before Krishna just like statues. This is another instance of a disease condition resulting from exuberant transcendental pleasure. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. So we have finished this 30 Which chapter it is? 29th chapter. Very good. So